Hello, Professor Erickson. My name is Susanna Windmiller, and today I'll be presenting my Unit 5 presentation. Today I'll be speaking to you all about the race bias IAT test and why it should be required for potential employees to take this test as a part of their hiring process. While I will be specifically speaking in terms of marketing agencies, I will note that employees at all levels and at any profession should need to take this test as well. To begin, we first must look at what the IAT test actually is. The Implicit Association Test is ran through Project Implicit, which is an organization that was founded in 1998 by three scientists, Tony Greenwald, Mahzarin Banaji, and Brian Nosek. As taken from the About Us section on their website, Project Implicit is a nonprofit organization and international collaboration between researchers who are interested in implicit social cognition, thoughts and feelings outside of conscious awareness and control. The goal of the organization is to educate the public about hidden biases and to provide a virtual laboratory for collecting data on the internet. There are many different tests they provide through their website, with names such as Arab-Muslim-Other People IAT, Disabled-Abled IAT, Gay-Straight IAT, and many more. In the case of this presentation, we'll be focusing on the race bias IAT test, specifically the Black versus White test. If we look at the slide on the screen, you will find the instructions that they provide for the race bias IAT test. As was described in the About page, the purpose of these tests is to uncover subconscious biases one may have towards certain religions, sexualities, ethnicities, and more. So how does this test work? Basically, one will associate good and bad words to the letters E and I on the keyboard. Once they are familiar with this pattern, pictures of Black and white men and women will show up on the screen, and the test taker must choose which words, which again are good and bad words, that they associate with the face on the screen. On the slide is an example of what one would see while taking the test. While many may claim to outwardly have no hate towards certain groups of people, there are often subconscious biases that people carry with them. These unconscious biases can be extremely dangerous and continue to contribute to the systems of racism in our country. One way we can see this is by the way that some large brand name companies handle their marketing decisions. The first example that I will speak about is one that comes from the clothing company H&M. In this instance, H&M decided to market one of their tops for children with the words "coolest monkey in the jungle" on it, by having a little Black boy being shown wearing the top, which was posted on their company website. This caused an immense amount of outrage, as many people pointed out that this was a very racist trope. On the slides, we will see the picture in question that caused the outrage and a side-by-side picture of another piece of clothing from this very specific line. Another instance of a bad marketing decision was made by the brand Gucci, a designer fashion house. In this situation, they approved the sale of a sweatshirt that has connotations of minstrelsy and blackface. As we can see in the slides, the comparison looks very intentional. A third instance of a bad marketing decision was made by Prada, another designer fashion house. They too use statues in their store window that have minstrelsy and blackface connotations. I added the same comparison picture from the slide above to show the pictures side by side. All of these situations caused major backlash from the Black community, and rightfully so. Even though these situations could not be classified as outwardly racist, it is clear that there are subconscious biases at play here for these marketing decisions to be approved. We must also consider that there is not just one process that clothing goes through before it is marketed. There are many different factors of approval that must happen before pictures go on display in websites, or before any type of decoration is placed in store windows. This means that multiple different teams of people found no issues with the racist imagery that was portrayed in these situations. For reference, I have included a picture of that details all of the steps that clothing goes through before being manufactured and marketed towards the public. This is where we get into the race bias IAT test and how it would be helpful. I imagine that absolutely none of the people who are involved in these situations admit to being openly racist, and probably do not believe that they are racist in any way. If these employees had been screened before being hired with this test, then it would have been found that they have subconscious biases towards Black men and women. If H&M, Gucci, and Prada are serious about their inclusivity and their dedication to diversity training, then this test would be a great way to figure out if their employees need to be inducted into a diversity training program. Obviously, this test is not 100% reliable. However, I do think that it would give companies a great basis on whether or not they need to spend extra time working with their future and current employees and making sure that they continue to strive towards a more inclusive company workplace. This could then allow for a more comfortable work environment for their Black employees and would also allow for a more open discussion about subconscious biases and how they affect our everyday lives. On a more economic level, these companies lost millions of dollars in sales due to these mistakes. Making sure that people have a better understanding on unconscious biases and how they play out in the business industry and in marketing decisions would allow these companies to avoid situations like this from ever happening again in the future. In addition to this, it could be a great tool for some people to finally come to the terms with the fact that they do have subconscious biases against groups of people. Many people do not like to admit this about themselves, and having a way to test themselves to prove their biases to them could help them seek out further education in the ways that it can rid themselves of these biases. In conclusion, I believe that the simple act of having future and current employees of marketing agencies and big brand name companies alike take this test would allow for more space in the business world for conversations to be had and for mistakes such as the ones outlined to never happen again. I implore everyone to take this test for themselves and to look inwardly on whether or not they hold implicit biases towards certain groups of people. Perhaps we will all find that we need to continue to work on ourselves and educate ourselves on these matters so that we can collectively work towards a more accepting and loving community. Thank you so much for listening to my presentation.